So, Mark, when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, aside when I was a young child, the usual things such as the policeman or fireman, when I got to be a little older, I did want to be a lawyer.
How did you come to realizing that law was your career?
Well, definitely my father, he was a lawyer, and I was brought up in a household where basically growing up I was always told you could be any professional you want, doctor, lawyer, engineer, but it was very clear that schooling was key in the household and that it would be choice among professions rather than a trade.
Where are you in the birth order?
I'm second. I have an older sister.
And where did you go to high school?
Beverly Hills High School.
And what was your reputation in high school?
Probably a serious kid. I was a fairly good student. Was on the swim team and water polo team, but I would probably be considered in the group of kids that were considered a little more quiet, a little more serious.
Were there any particular moments that swayed your life, that sent it in an important direction?
I think actually in high school I sort of learned that education could be fun and that if you did work hard, you could get it, you could do well. Doing well was not a mystery. I also met my future wife in high school, which was a very important event, and that meeting caused me to accelerate my education in both my college work and graduate work.
Did you enjoy law school? Did you hate law school?
Loved law school.
Really?
Yeah, loved it. It was the old style. It was the Socratic method, which they don't generally follow in today's law schools, but basically every class would be conducted by the professor by asking students questions. And I found that very challenging, very exciting, and a lot of fun. It was a good group of people.
When did you realize that you could be really good at this profession?
Hard to say. I mean, I did well in law school and was on law review, but I think throughout most of my career, I've always felt that have been concerned, am I prepared enough, am I ready to go, et cetera. So generally I believe that, I found that I would get comfortable once I felt I was prepared.
My sister's a barrister in Australia, so do you ever wish that you could wear a golden wig?
Well, if you ever saw my hairline, the answer to that question would be absolutely yes. And there's just something so wonderful about barristers. I mean, they sound always so intelligent and always so on point. So I think they portray the legal profession just wonderfully. I love it.
How did you find your niche in the legal profession?
It was interesting. I started in my father's law office, and he was a general practitioner. And basically, as a young attorney, I would do anything. If a client came in the door, it didn't matter what the problem was. I would learn it and do it. And fairly early on, I started gravitating towards areas of the law involving real property, usage of real property, landlord, tenant, and I enjoy that very much. My wife is a physician, so a lot of our friends were physicians, and back in the old days in the 60s and 70s, doctors would invest in any real property venture that promised substantial tax relief. They loved tax relief. So in the good years, I would be representing them going into deals. In the bad years, I'd be representing them litigating them out of bad deals. So that was sort of my career.
When you talk about law school and they were still using the Socratic method, when did that change? Do many law schools still use that today?
I do not believe a lot of law schools still use it today. Both my daughter and son are lawyers, and they had, I think, a more traditional lecture-type learning experience than I did. And they're both very good lawyers, so, I guess both teaching methods work well, but the Socratic method really made you prepare for class, because if you were asked a question and you gave a unsatisfactory answer, you'd be roasted publicly. That happens less these days.
What did you think of the movie Paper Chase?
Oh, I like Paper Chase, but it was a movie. But I did enjoy it.
Was that anything like what your law school experience was?
Not really. Not as dramatic. I mean, law school for me was basically very challenging intellectually, a lot of fun intellectually, but then just a lot of hard work. I mean, you read a tremendous amount. You had to be prepared each day. I ended up briefing all the cases in the case book before I went to class. So it was a combination of a grind with sort of a challenge and exciting time in actually the classroom time.
Have you lived all of your life in Los Angeles?
Yes, I was. Technically, I was not born in Beverly Hills because there's no hospitals in Beverly Hills, but my family was living in Beverly Hills when I was born, and I grew up here and have lived my full life here.
When did it occur to you to get involved with the Beverly Hills City Council and even become mayor?
Well, actually, I blame my political career on my wife. Our children had started elementary school in Beverly Hills, and there was a program called the School Improvement Program, and my wife was made president of it. This was a program that added money was given to kindergarten through third grade, and it had to be administered by parents. And as I said, my wife was made president of the program. She came home, looked at me, and said, "Mark, there are no fathers in this program." And I, being a very bright, successful husband, said, "I'd like to volunteer." So I became secretary, and then when, hold on one second, what? Then our school system was facing a financial crisis, which the general public did not believe because we were named Beverly Hills. So I ran for the school board in view of the declining resources, was elected in 1983, served on the school board. Then when I left the school board a few years later, I was appointed to Public Works, and then a friend of mine suggested I run for council.
What was the year that you first got involved as a secretary?
That would have been probably 1980 or 81.
Okay. And then how did you come to run for mayor?
Well, two things happened. One is we had a principal who was very well liked by the parents at my children's elementary school, had been principal for well over 20 years, and the Board of Education decided to make a change, which upset a lot of the parents. I had suggested, since it was technically a promotion, that we conduct ourselves in a very civil, diplomatic way and let the school board know that we would prefer to have the principal remain. The group of parents asked me to speak before the board, which I did. The board made its own administrative decision and did, in fact, quote, place the principal in a superintendent's position out of the school. And then a group of parents suggested that I run, and because we were facing a serious financial difficulty within the next couple of years that needed to be changed, I did run for the board at that time.
And then how did you come to serve as mayor of Beverly Hills?
The mayorship of Beverly Hills, by tradition, is a rotated position. You get elected to the city council and you serve 4 years. And there's a system to establish seniority, which is based on the amount of votes you get. And then each year, the mayorship changes, and the next most senior person becomes mayor. You technically do have to get 3 votes of your fellow council member out of 5, but there's only one case historically that I can remember when the council did not follow the tradition. So basically, you serve as a councilman, you rotate in 1 year as mayor, and then you rotate back out.
How much time did it take from your typical week to be on the Beverly Hills City Council?